Hello, in this screen recording we walk you through the steps of getting started for an assignment with R and RStudio, and as well as using your GitHub repository. So at the beginning of the assignment, you're going to have a link that was sent to you by me that tells you go here to create your assignment repository. You should see something like this. This is the first lab assignment. So let's say I'll accept this assignment. And what this is doing is it's making a repository of my starter documents for you that you're going to have access to. And you can tell that this is your repository because in addition to the name of the assignment that I had given, it also has your username. I'm using my testing account. That's why that's what my username is showing as. So let's go ahead and sign in. And in here, we have a few files. We will talk about what git ignores later, so I'm going to hold that on talking about that right now. The Readme file is basically the information here. It says you have some starter docs, documents, and code, as well as data for the first lab. We also have our markdown file and the resulting HTML file that results from knitting that file, and an R project file for working with projects in RStudio. So what we need to do now is bring these files into our RStudio cloud so that we can actually do the data analysis. And throughout this process, we're going to, as we make changes, make checkpoints for them and commit our changes and push them as well. So let's go ahead and clone this repository with HTTPS. So I'm going to say, let's copy that to clipboard. Then I go to my RStudio cloud account. And I say create a new project from a Git repository, and I paste that URL in here and hit OK. Currently what is happening is those files are getting downloaded pretty much onto here, so cloned, but also this project is tied to that particular Git repository. So you can actually make changes here and then commit them as changes to your Git repository. It's going to ask you for your username, as well as your password. And once you're done, you can see your files here. The file that is of most concern to us is our R markdown file. So we can see here in raw form the R markdown file. You may want to make edits here. So for example, maybe you want to put today's date and save that change. Now let's go ahead and knit the document. When you first hit knit, what it's trying to do is it's trying to run the entire code for you. It tells me that this is going to require installing some packages. So let's say, okay, that's fine. Depending on what that setup is, this might take a while. Also note that all of this requires an internet connection. Now, another thing that I'm getting as an error is that there is no package called tidyverse, and it says on line 11. So we haven't yet installed the packages that we're going to be using here, so we need to do those first. Let's go to our console and say this might take a little bit. There's a lot in the tidyverse package. We've talked about how it's a collection of packages. If you kind of want to quickly read through what's happening here, it's installing a bunch of packages. Some of these are packages we are going to use. Some of them might be beyond the scope of this course, and some of them might just be dependency packages that we're never directly using, but the packages we're using are making use of them. All right, we're good to go. Now let's install the other package as well. Oops. Note that the R is capitalized there. All right, so this is a single package. It installed quickly. Now let's go ahead and try to knit our document one more time. If you have a pop-up blocker, you might get an error like this. And you can see that the document is rendered. So going forward, what you're going to do is make changes, any sort of edits, adding your answers, so on and so forth in your R Markdown file. And then when you want to see the result, you can knit and see your text and code, text rendered and your code ran, and accordingly the results showing up here. One quick tip, if you want to not necessarily get that error about the pop-up blocker, you can actually say that the preview should be in the viewer pane, which is going to be down here. So if I knit one more time, that preview is going to show up here. One potential disadvantage is that it's smaller, but an advantage is that you're not going to get that pop-up blocker error. And also, it might be easier to see exactly what you're typing and what it looks like right there. All right, hope that was useful.